Welcome back to Winners and Losers, ladies and gentlemen. We've already discussed our loser this week, which was Arsenal potentially throwing away their Premier League title. Now we're going to look at the winners, and we're going to Aston Villa, who, in the words, I think it was Joe Tomlinson, are absolutely cooking under Unai Emery right now. Suddenly, Doogie, Unai Emery getting the respect he deserves, which I think we've been giving him over the years, but suddenly he's getting the respect he deserves among the wider sort of Premier League community. We saw that again this weekend with a 3-0 demolition of Newcastle, a Newcastle side that rarely concede, it must be said. Yeah, I mean, what went down? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Unai Emery, I think, is one of the most underrated managers in world football, to be honest. I mean, he had a difficult spell at Arsenal, of course, but you look across his whole career, I mean, 3 Europa Leagues in 3 years, at Sevilla, 7 trophies at PSG. I think he's still got the best win percentage in that club's history. Villarreal won a Europa League, went to a Champions League semi-final, and now he's taken Aston Villa from 16th to 6th. And this was a big, showdown against a side that were flying this season as well in Newcastle. I think they had 5 wins on the bounce going into this, but they responded with the eyes of the watching world on them. 12:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. Everyone watching, everyone interested to see how they did it, and they did it in the best possible fashion with a goal from Jacob Ramsey after a beautiful cushioned header from Ollie Watkins, who then got involved with the brace, and this keeps them at 6th. They're 3 points off Spurs and 6 off Man United, although the Red Devils do have a game in hand, and it feels like, which we'll get onto, that maybe Champions League football is a step too far for Aston Villa this year, but they can be really, really excited about the prospect of consistently challenging for Europe with such an elite manager at the helm. And, guys, it could have been even more. Ollie Watkins hit the post. He forced 2 great saves out of Nick Pope and had an effort ruled out for offside too. Villa have now won 5 games in a row for the first time since 1998. And this was all the more bitter for Newcastle, because I'd actually kind of forgotten this, that they were initially targeting Unai Emery when they looked to replace, when they brought in Eddie Howe back in October, prior to them appointing Eddie Howe. And the Villains have been on an exceptional run. They've now won 12 of their 18 games under the Spaniard. Only Arsenal, Man City and Man United have taken more than their 38 points during that run. And it's easy to see how they're doing it when they've got a player in this sort of form in Ollie Watkins. 11 goals in his last 12 games. Gareth Southgate in attendance would have been wowed by this performance. He's, along with Ivan Toney, probably the exceptional English striker behind Harry Kane. And he was absolutely brilliant on the day as well. 2 goals, 1 assist, as I said. He had 6 shots, he had 2 chances created. And this is a backline that was the best in the Premier League prior to this, and still is the best in the Premier League. But he made Shah, Botman, Burn in particular look really average, and Trippier had a really tough game as well against Alex Moreno at left back, as well. And also, it wasn't just the Watkins show. Shout out Jacob Ramsey. 3 tackles and interceptions, 1 aerial duel one, 3 dribbles, 96% pass accuracy. And considering he's playing on the left-hand side of a 4-2-3-1, that's really, really impressive as well in those congested wide spaces, being so solid on the ball. Massive, massive asset. 3 key passes, 4 shots, 1 goal, 1 assist, 4 goals and 5 assists in the league this season. He's still only 21. Birmingham's ability to create top-class attacking midfielders in that sort of age range, Jude Bellingham and Jacob Ramsey, obviously not quite comparable yet, and maybe never will be, but Jacob Ramsey deserves his flowers full short as well. And it's worth mentioning the fact, though, that Newcastle, horrendous on the day. As I said, they created just 0.4 XG. Eddie Howe admitted afterwards that it was a really, really bad day and they were way off it. But enough about Newcastle. Saturday was all about Aston Villa. But interestingly, I think, and we think, the more interesting question is, how do Villa keep this going? How do they transform themselves into a Champions League outfit? Henry, you've scoured Europe.
Yes.
Who do you think they should bring in, potentially?
Cast the net wide. Quick note on what you were saying about Watkins, Gareth Southgate, etc. I think half of the top 10 strikers in England in the Premier League at the moment are English. So it's a really good time for goal scorers in English football, which is, there is life after Kane potentially. Let's see. So yeah, but I do think that Aston Villa will be needing a new striker if they're going to be pushing on this season. We've seen Watkins; he really is leading their line. Their next top scorer is Danny Ings on 6, and he's obviously not even at the club anymore. We've seen Leon Bailey play up front with him in recent weeks. He's got 4 goals and 3 assists. I like Bailey, but I don't think he's a reliable guy. So I think they need to bring in someone else there. I should add, because I know a lot of people will mention this, Cameron Archer is absolutely crushing it on loan at Middlesbrough. 8 goals and 6 assists since January. another young lad from Birmingham doing
Hotbed
it.
of talent.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm excited to see if they can bring him back into the fold next season and really give him an opportunity. But it's no bad thing going out, and they've shown they've got ambition in the market before. Aston Villa, Harvey Barnes, if Leicester gets relegated, I think it would cost a lot of money, but 10 goals this season, really active, busy forwards, like him a lot. It'd be exciting to see if he can maybe step up to a bigger side if Leicester are to go down. Went over to Spain, obviously Unai Emery's former hunting ground. You recommended Chukwueze, who we've seen have a bit of a turn of form recently. Yeah, we saw 2 great goals against Real Madrid, excellent goals there. I think Enes Unyal of Getafe, he's got 13 goals this season, 16 last term. He's been linked with Real Madrid, Juventus and Villarreal. He's 25 years old, young guy, would maybe cost about 30 million, 2.5 shots and 4.1 aerial wins, which I like, because if we consider how sort of active Ollie Watkins is, he's quite fluid forward and around that. I think Unai could almost be more of a target man.
More of a point man.
Who he could pivot off. I've tried to choose forwards, I should say, who are more used to playing in a front two, because that is the kind of system we're seeing for Villa this season. And then, yeah, Dan Juma as well, another guy that he'll know from his time with Villarreal. He's only played 55 minutes in the Prem for Spurs. Not quite sure if that loan move is working out for him. We did saw him score an excellent goal in the weekend in that weird defeat to Bournemouth. I'm not sure what Tottenham are doing there. Midfield, though, that's the other idea that I've maybe been thinking. Maybe they could get another body in there to complete with Kamara, McGinn and Ramsey, who we've seen McGinn, he can play more attacking. Ramsey can certainly play more attacking too. Is there like a holding midfielder you could see potentially going in there?
Yeah, I mean, they've been linked with Calvin Phillips in recent weeks, who was probably regretting that move to Man City, to be totally honest. Hasn't had a lot of game time and came off the bench at the weekend and was unfortunate to be involved in Kelechi Iheanacho's goal, with Ederson sort of palming it onto him. He admitted as much afterwards that he had a bit of a stinker in his post-match press conference. Hasn't worked for him. Obviously a top player, but hasn't got the minutes he deserves, or it's difficult to say he deserves it, because he's competing with Rodri, who is probably the most outstanding defensive midfielder in the world. Rodri has an amazing injury record as well, so it's difficult to see him getting consistent minutes over the next 2-3 years. Would they sell Calvin Phillips? I mean, they're not going to get anywhere close to the money they paid for him after the year that he's had, and being called overweight by Guardiola was probably a bit of a low point. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they say they want £45 million for him, which I think is, for a guy that's played about 100 minutes in the Premier League, that seems like an outrageous suggestion. And actually, Gabby Ebonglahor, if anyone who's been following
Super Gabby.
He was adamant that he would not be getting in the side over Kamara. Just quickly, another potential option in midfield could be James Ward-Prowse. They've bid for him before. If he goes down with Southampton, would he want to stay in the Premier League? I imagine there's some kind of get-out clause in his contract there. He can't be allowed to be stuck there forever. Also, a lot of links with Mohamed Salisu of Southampton too, with Aston Villa, which I think would be a great body to have in at centre-half. A bit more competition to Konsa. Right-back's another position that you've highlighted could use improving. You're right, Ashley Young. What a season he's having at 37 years old, must be said, keeping Matty Cash out the side. But yeah, they definitely could look, I agree here, to maybe press on this season.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of good players that could be, available for reasonable fees. It's difficult with Villa because you're not going to be suggesting players that are already playing in the Champions League for Villa. You're really looking for up-and-coming players. And I think one of the best up-and-coming right-backs in Ligue 1 is Van der Sar at Monaco. He's a 21-year-old Brazilian. He's just finishing his second season in the Principality. Defensive behemoth, and I think that would work really nicely on the opposite side to Alex Moreno, who, as I said earlier, had an amazing game against Newcastle. He was causing Trippier all sorts of problems. 1 goal and 3 assists in 25 Ligue 1 games for Van der Sar this year, but over 5.5 tackles and interceptions per 90. And there's also a lot of speculation around Ridley Baku of Wolfsburg as well, who can play as a right winger. I know we've been talking about the fact they sometimes go 4-4-2, they sometimes play 4-2-3-1. I think having a guy that could play at right wing back and at right wing could be a nice option. He has been linked with Arsenal though, so if you get the offer of Arsenal or Aston Villa, you go to Arsenal probably. But Henry, I mean, it's just so pleasing to be talking about, European football back at Villa Park, because it was in the mid-noughties, really, that they were doing so well under Martin O'Neill, and it wasn't so long ago that they were sort of struggling as a club.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember I was at the playoff where they lost to Fulham to get back into the Premier League, and sort of so many question marks over their future, etc. I think someone like Dean Smith deserves a lot of credit for what he did, getting them back to where they are now. And yeah, Unai Emery has just come in there and taken the squad, which Steven Gerrard had so many issues with, couldn't seem to get a tune out of them at all. And Unai Emery has just shown what an excellent coach he is, and has got what, I mean, suddenly you look at their team on paper and you think, yeah, you know what, this is a decent side. But it's really impressive. If you consider how well other teams like Brentford and Brighton have been playing this season, and the lead they've had to chop down from sides like Newcastle, Spurs, Manchester United, to be in 6th in the position where they are. As you said, Villa Park, a great stadium, an iconic place to host European football. I'm very excited. I remember the Michael O'Neill era. I think they were playing like Rapid Vienna or something like that. I remember like the last time they were there, and it's a great place to go play football. So yeah, I'm really excited to see if they can kind of begin to relive the glory days. And they've invested a lot of money to get to this point. Again, it's not been an easy road, but yeah, it's great to see a sort of a plan finally sort of playing out.
Absolutely, the days of Milner, Barry, Ashley Young. Back there again. He was there originally with John Carew and Super Gabby Bonlahor, Top Sports finest as well. It was a great side. It was a great side indeed. Guys, what do you make of Villa and their run under Unai Emery? Do you see them consistently challenging for European football? Personally, I think it might be quite difficult because Chelsea, Liverpool are going to come again. But it's a great story at the moment just to enjoy their rise up the table from 16th to 6th. Remarkable stuff. One of the stories of the season. If you've enjoyed this video, let us know who you would want Villa to sign this summer. And don't forget to like it and subscribe to Football Daily. And we'll catch you later on. Bye-bye.